Millionaire farmer falls for a black waitress at a diner. Before we start today's story, comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. Caitlin was a waitress. She worked very hard every day. She wanted only one thing in her life, to bring her little boy Thomas back home. But it was not easy. She had lost custody of him, and now she had to fight in court to get him back. It was late at night in the small restaurant. Caitlin wiped table 17 for the third time. She was so tired. Her fingers hurt and her feet felt sore inside her old sneakers. The clock on the wall showed 10:45 p.m. The restaurant was almost empty. Only Caitlin and the night cook Roberto were still there. "You can go home, Kate," Roberto shouted from the kitchen. "The place is cleaner than a hospital." Caitlin didn't answer. She took out a folded letter from her apron pocket and read it again. She had already read it 10 times. Court hearing scheduled for July 15th. Only 21 days left. Her hands shook. She was scared. Just then, her phone buzzed. A picture of her son Thomas appeared on the screen. He was smiling, showing the gap where his front tooth was missing. The picture had been sent by her ex-husband Jason. The message under the photo said, "He doesn't even ask about you anymore." Caitlin's heart broke. She put the phone away quickly. Her short nails scratched the surface of the plastic table. The ceiling fan spun slowly above her, spreading the smell of old coffee and fried food. "Need a ride?" Roberto asked, coming out from the kitchen while removing his apron. "No thanks," Caitlin said. "I still have to finish up here." "It's almost 11, girl. Don't stay too long," Roberto sighed, then left through the back door. Suddenly, the front doorbell rang. Caitlin turned quickly, holding her cleaning cloth. A tall man walked in. He shook the dust off his boots at the door. He wore jeans, a plaid shirt, and a worn-out cowboy hat. "Sorry," Caitlin said. "We're closing." "Just coffee," the man said. His voice was deep and calm. "I've been driving for 5 hours straight. I just need one more cup to stay awake." Caitlin hesitated, but the man sat down at the counter and took off his hat. His face had kind eyes with wrinkles around them and gray hair at the sides. "Please," he added gently, "I won't stay long." Caitlin poured him a fresh cup of coffee. Her hands were still shaking as she placed it in front of him. "Thank you," he said. His eyes noticed her name tag. Caitlin. She only nodded and went back to cleaning tables. 10 minutes later, the man finished his coffee. "How much do I owe?" he asked. "$3.50, Caitlin replied. The man placed a $20 bill on the counter. "Keep the change." "You don't have to," Caitlin said softly. "Everyone needs it," the man answered, putting his hat back on. "Good night, Caitlin." When he left, Caitlin picked up the money. Her hand still trembled as she put it in her pocket, right next to the court letter. At home, Caitlin sat on her small bed. She pulled out an old shoebox she kept under the bed. Inside were photos of Thomas at 2 years old, his face covered with mashed potatoes. Thomas at 4, asleep with his teddy bear. Thomas at 5, smiling proudly on his first day of school. Caitlin touched the photos. Her fingers still smelled of the cleaning chemicals from work. Her back ached, and her heart felt heavy. "I'll bring you back," she whispered to the pictures. "I swear I will." She put the shoebox away, lay down still in her work uniform, and closed her eyes. The ceiling fan above her spun lazily, just like the one in the restaurant. Another day without Thomas had ended. Another day closer to the court hearing. The sun wasn't even up yet when Caitlin walked into her small piece of land. The grass was wet with morning dew, soaking her sneakers. She picked up the hoe leaning against the fence. Her hands already had calluses from working so much. She breathed in the smell of wet soil. "It's going to rain today," she muttered, looking at the dark clouds moving in from the east. Her back hurt from her restaurant shift, but she kept working. Each time the hoe struck the ground, it made a dull sound. Thunder rumbled in the distance. "Not today," Caitlin whispered to the sky. "Please, not today." But the storm was coming. The wind grew stronger. She dropped the hoe and ran to the shed to get the plastic tarps. She had to protect her tomato plants. The first raindrops fell as she stretched the tarp over the rows. The wind pulled hard, nearly ripping it out of her hands. Suddenly, a voice came from behind her. "Need help?" Caitlin turned. It was the man from the restaurant. He was standing by the fence, still wearing his cowboy hat, his boots muddy. "What are you doing here?" she asked, holding the tarp tightly. "I saw you working when I passed on the road," he said, climbing over the fence. "Looks like a strong storm." Lightning cracked across the sky. The rain fell harder. "Grab that end," Caitlin shouted. The man helped her. Together, they stretched the tarps over the plants, their clothes soaked from the storm. After 20 minutes, they had covered most of the crops. Both were exhausted and dripping wet. "Come on," Caitlin said. "We'll wait it out in the shed." Inside, it smelled of earth and old tools. Caitlin sat on a wooden plank while the man stood, removing his hat. "John," he said. "My name is John." "Do you always help strangers in storms, John?" Caitlin asked. He smiled. "Only the ones who serve me coffee after hours." Lightning lit the shed. Caitlin looked at the old wooden walls. "This was my grandmother's land. She grew everything here." "You've kept it well," John said. "I try," Caitlin whispered, "but sometimes it feels like it's never enough." "It's never easy working land alone," John replied. "I don't have a choice." The storm roared above them, rain pounding the tin roof. "This storm will pass," John said. "They always do." Caitlin looked at him. His clothes were drenched, but he didn't seem to care. "Why are you really here?" she asked. "Because sometimes people need help," he said simply. Just then, Caitlin's phone buzzed. It was another message from Jason. Her hands shook again. John noticed, but said nothing. When the storm ended, the sun came out. Caitlin thanked John for helping. "I'll stop by the restaurant later," he said. "Might need another cup of coffee." Before she could reply, he walked away. That afternoon, Caitlin returned to the busy restaurant. She served coffee and hamburgers, her arms sore from the morning's work. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. She froze. Jason walked in. He wore a sharp suit and shiny shoes. His cold smile made Caitlin's stomach twist. "Long time no see, Kate," he said, sitting at the counter. Caitlin tried to stay calm. "What do you want, Jason?" "To see how you're doing," Jason said, looking around the restaurant. "Thomas asked about you yesterday." Her heart raced. "Is he okay?" "Better than ever," Jason said smugly. "My new wife takes great care of him. He barely remembers life before." "Stop it," Caitlin whispered. "What? I'm just being honest. Do you really think you can win at the hearing? You have no money, no lawyer, nothing." The doorbell rang again. John walked in and sat a few seats away. "Coffee, please," he said. Jason smirked. "We're not done talking." "Yes, we are," Caitlin said firmly, but her hands trembled as she poured John's coffee. Jason grabbed her wrist. "Don't interrupt me." "Let her go," John said calmly but firmly. "This is none of your business, cowboy," Jason sneered. "Let her go," John repeated. Jason slowly released her wrist. "I just came to give you a friendly message," he said. "Give up the hearing, Kate. You can't win." "I have my son," Caitlin whispered. Jason smirked. "Not anymore." Then he walked out. Caitlin almost collapsed, but Roberto caught her. "Breathe, Kate." "He's right," Caitlin sobbed. "I can't fight him." "Yes, you can," John said from the doorway. His face was serious. "I have a lawyer, one of the best in the state." "I can't afford a lawyer," Caitlin said. "You don't need to." "He owes me some favors," John replied, handing her a card. "Call him tomorrow. Tell him I sent you." Caitlin wiped her tears. "Why are you helping me?" "Because no one should go through this alone," John said. Caitlin put the card in her pocket. Her hands still shook, but not as much. The next morning, Caitlin sat nervously in a big office. Dr. Mendez, a short man with glasses, flipped through papers. "John told me about your case," he said. "We'll need evidence against your ex-husband." "I have some photos," Caitlin said, pulling out her phone. Suddenly, the office door opened. The secretary peeked in. "Excuse me, doctor, someone is here to see Mrs. Caitlin." Before Caitlin could ask who, a small voice shouted, "Mommy!" Thomas ran into the room. "Thomas!" Caitlin cried, hugging him tightly. She breathed in the sweet smell of his shampoo. Tears streamed down her face. "I missed you, Mommy," Thomas whispered. "I missed you too, my love. So much," Caitlin said. "I brought you something," Thomas said, pulling a crumpled paper from his pocket. "I made it at school." It was a drawing of Caitlin and Thomas holding hands. A big smiling sun shone in the corner. "It's beautiful, Thomas," Caitlin said, kissing his hair. Jason's loud voice came from the reception. "Come here now," he shouted. The boy, Thomas, flinched. "I need to go, Mom," he whispered. "Just a little longer, Thomas. Everything will be okay," Caitlin said softly. She kissed her son's forehead. "I promise." Thomas ran out. Right then, Jason appeared at the door. His face was full of anger. "This is invasion of privacy," Jason growled. "I'll sue this office. You're on private property." Dr. Mendez, calm as always, replied, "I suggest you leave." "This isn't over," Jason pointed at Caitlin. "You won't win." "That's enough," said another voice. John stood behind Jason. "Leave now." Jason turned, and his face turned red when he saw John. "You don't tell me what to do, hillbilly," Jason shouted. "No," John agreed, "but the building security does. Do you want me to call them?" Jason adjusted his tie angrily. "Come on, Thomas." The boy looked at his mother one last time before following his father. Caitlin sat heavily in the chair. "Perfect timing," Dr. Mendez said to John. "As always," John answered. He sat next to Caitlin. "I came to see if everything was okay." Clearly it wasn't. "Did he follow you?" the lawyer asked Caitlin. "Probably." She held Thomas's drawing close to her chest. "He has people watching me." "That's good," Dr. Mendez smiled. "More evidence for us." "Can you really help me?" Caitlin asked. "Jan rarely asks for favors," the lawyer said, removing his glasses. "But when he does, it's important. We're going to win this custody case, Mrs. Caitlin." Caitlin looked at John, who was studying Thomas's drawing. "Your son has talent," John said. "He takes after his mother." Caitlin carefully folded the paper. "I used to like drawing too." "Do you still like it?" John asked. "I don't have time anymore." John was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Come with me. I want to show you something. I can't. I have to work." "I called Roberto. He gave you the morning off," John said with a smile. "Go, Mrs. Caitlin," Dr. Mendez encouraged her. "I have work to do here." She followed John to his car, a dusty blue pickup truck. They drove in silence for 20 minutes. "Where are we going?" Caitlin asked. "You'll see." The truck stopped in front of a huge farm. Green fields stretched to the horizon. "Welcome to Hope Farm," John said. "My home." Caitlin looked at him, surprised. "You live here?" "Along with 20 other employees," he smiled. "Want to see it?" She hesitated. Thomas's drawing was still in her purse. "Yes." The tall grass brushed against Caitlin's legs as she followed John through the field. The morning sun warmed her back. 2 horses grazed peacefully in the distance. "How many hectares?" she asked. 200, John replied. "Started with 10. Workers waved from afar. John waved back. "Why did you bring me here?" Caitlin asked. "I have a proposal," John said. He pointed to a barn near the main house. "That space is empty. It would be perfect for a pie shop." Caitlin froze. "How do you know about the pies?" "Roberto," John smiled. "He said your pies are the best he's ever had." "I can't accept." "Why not?" "Because that's not how things work." Her phone vibrated. A message from Dr. Mendez, preliminary hearing scheduled for tomorrow. 9 a.m. Her legs weakened. John held her arm. "Everything okay?" "The hearing," Caitlin whispered shakily. "It's tomorrow." John guided her to a bench. "Take a deep breath." "I don't have money for rent this month," she said suddenly. "How am I going to pay for a lawyer?" "I already told you, you don't need to pay. Everyone wants something in return." "Not everyone." John sat beside her. The wind blew between them, carrying the smell of grass and wet earth. A dog barked in the distance. "When I was your age," John began, "I lost everything. My wife, my daughter." His voice was serious as he looked at the horizon. "Car accident. I was always working." I'm sorry, Caitlin whispered. After that, I built all this, he said, gesturing to the farm. But I discovered success means nothing when you're alone. A chicken ran past them, followed by 3 little chicks. I don't want your pity, Caitlin said. It's not pity, John stood up. It's partnership. You have talent. You have strength. You just need a chance. What if I lose? What if Jason wins? Then we fight again. He extended his hand. Come, I want to show you the barn. Caitlin took his hand. His calluses touched her skin. The barn was huge inside. Sunlight came through the windows. The smell of new wood filled the air. It needs renovation, John said, but it has potential. Caitlin walked around. Her steps echoed. We could put the counter there, tables near the windows. See? You're already planning, John smiled. Why are you doing this? She asked. Because I believe in you. John leaned against the door, and because Thomas deserves to see his mother achieve her dreams. Her son's name made her heart tighten. Tomorrow. The hearing was tomorrow. I need to go. I have to prepare. Think about the proposal, John said. No pressure. On the way back, Caitlin stayed silent. Thomas's drawing was heavy in her purse. The empty barn stayed in her mind. Want me to pick you up tomorrow? John asked. No. I need to do this alone. You're not alone, Caitlin. She looked at him one last time before entering the restaurant. Roberto was waiting at the counter. How was it? I don't know. She tied her apron. I really don't know. The courthouse was gray and tall. Caitlin climbed the steps with trembling legs. Her only suit itched her neck. Dr. Mendez was waiting. Ready? No. Great. Let's go. The hearing room was smaller than she thought. Jason was already there talking with his lawyer. His suit probably cost more than her car. Don't look at him, Dr. Mendez whispered. Focus on me. The judge entered, a bald man with a stern face. Case 2847, he said. Custody of minor Thomas Santos. Caitlin's stomach churned. The back door opened quietly. John entered, sitting in the last row. Mr. Jason Santos, the judge began. You allege financial incapacity of the mother? Yes, Your Honor, Jason stood. I have her bank statements here. Your Honor, Dr. Mendez raised his hand. We also have documents. He pulled a folder from his briefcase. Caitlin recognized the contract John had left. Mrs. Santos is now a partner in a business venture. Dr. Wyatt, Mendez explained, a bakery at Hope Farm. Jason's face turned red when he saw John. This is fraudulent. All documents are in order, Dr. Mendez said calmly. The judge examined them. Seems legitimate. Proceed. We also have evidence of harassment, Dr. Mendez continued, showing messages and reports. Objection! Jason's lawyer shouted. Overruled, the judge said. I want to see this evidence. Jason shifted nervously. Mr. Santos, the judge said at last, is this true? The messages are taken out of context, Jason said tensely. And the police reports? Silence. Your Honor, Dr. Mendez stood, we request temporary joint custody. The judge adjusted his glasses. Based on the evidence, I grant temporary joint custody, 1 week with each parent until the final hearing. Jason started to argue, but the judge cut him off. Caitlin covered her mouth with her hands. Tears filled her eyes. You may pick up your son today, the judge said. Hearing adjourned. Jason stormed out. First victory, Dr. Mendez smiled, but we still have work ahead. John approached. You registered the contract yesterday? Caitlin asked. Wait a second. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe and share your favorite part in the comments below. And don't forget to drop a heart to show your support. Thought I'd help, he smiled. And it did. I'm going to get Thomas now, she said. Want to come? Of course. In John's truck, Caitlin finally breathed. I can't believe I did it. We did it, John corrected. This is just the beginning. At the school, Thomas was playing. Mommy, he shouted. Caitlin knelt, hugging him. I came to get you. You're sleeping at my house tonight. Really? Really. She wiped her tears. And I'll show you a special place. Thomas looked at John curiously. Who is he? A friend, Caitlin smiled. A good friend. They drove to Hope Farm. Is this a real farm? Thomas asked. Real, John said. Want to meet the animals later? Yes. Thomas beamed. First, I want to show you something, Caitlin said. She led him to the barn. What's going to be here, Mom? A pie shop, Caitlin whispered. Like the ones Grandma used to make. Apple ones? Thomas's eyes sparkled. Exactly. Thunder rumbled. I don't like thunder, Thomas said. Me neither, Caitlin smiled. But we're safe here. Rain fell harder. Come, John called. I'll show you the main house before it gets worse. They ran, Thomas laughing as he jumped in puddles. Suddenly, a police car stopped. Mrs. Caitlin Santos? The officer asked. Mr. Jason Santos filed a complaint for trespassing. What? Caitlin's hands shook as she held the paper. She has authorization, John said. She's my partner. Even so, the officer said, I need you to leave. No, Thomas cried, hugging his mother. Son, Caitlin soothed, it's okay. The property is mine, John said. I have documents. Sorry, sir, court orders. Rain poured harder. It's okay, Caitlin whispered. Come on, Thomas. John protested. Not in this rain. I'll drive them, John insisted. In the truck, Thomas fell asleep in the back. Silent tears slid down Caitlin's cheeks. He won't win, John said softly. He already has, Caitlin whispered. How will I open the shop now? We'll sort it out, John promised. At her apartment, Caitlin carried Thomas inside. When she came back, John was still there in the rain. I'm sorry, she said. Don't apologize, John said gently. He stepped closer. You're stronger than you think, Caitlin. Why do you keep helping me? She asked. Because you deserve to be happy, John said, touching her face. Thunder rumbled. Caitlin closed her eyes, feeling his hand. Mommy? Thomas's voice came from the door. Everything okay? Yes, son, Caitlin said quickly, stepping back. John walked to his truck. See you tomorrow. Caitlin nodded. From the window, she and Thomas watched the truck leave in the rain. I liked him, Mom, Thomas yawned. Me too, son. She kissed his forehead. Me too. At 6 a.m., the phone rang. Caitlin answered quietly, not to wake Thomas. Hello? Mrs. Santos, Dr. Mendez said. We have an emergency. Caitlin sat up in bed. Beside her, little Thomas moved in his sleep, but didn't wake up. Her phone buzzed. She answered, and her lawyer spoke fast. Jason filed something in court, the lawyer said. He wants an injunction. He's saying you are turning Thomas against him. He says you are making Thomas forget his father. What? Caitlin's voice came out louder than she meant. Her chest hurt. He has photos of you with John, the lawyer continued. He says you are trying to replace him as Thomas's father. Caitlin turned to look at Thomas, sleeping sweetly. Her heart pounded so hard it felt like it might break. When is the hearing? She asked. This afternoon, at 3, the lawyer answered. But it's my week with Thomas, Caitlin whispered. I know, the lawyer said kindly. That's why we must act fast. Come to the office right now. Bring John. Caitlin slowly got out of bed. What do we do? She asked. Come now, the lawyer repeated. Thomas opened his eyes as she ended the call. Mom, it's early, he said, yawning. I know, love, she said softly. She kissed his forehead. I need to take care of some things. You'll stay with Roberto today, okay? Thomas perked up. At the restaurant, can I have a milkshake? Yes, you can. When they arrived at Roberto's restaurant, Roberto saw Caitlin's worried face and understood something was wrong. Go to the kitchen, champ, Roberto said warmly to Thomas. I'll teach you how to make hamburgers. Okay. Thomas ran off happily. Caitlin's hands shook as she took out her phone and called John. I need you, she said, her voice breaking. I'm coming, John answered. At Dr. Mendez's office, the air felt cold. Caitlin sat nervously until John arrived 5 minutes later, still in his farm work clothes. Show me the photos, John said firmly. The lawyer spread them out on the table. Photos of Caitlin and John at the farm. Photos of them in the rain. One of John touching her face. Someone was following me? John muttered. That's illegal, Caitlin said quickly. Yes, Dr. Mendez agreed. And it may help us. It shows Jason is obsessive and controlling. He pulled out more papers. And there's more. Jason has suspicious financial documents. Big deposits of money that don't look clean. Where did you get these? Caitlin asked, shocked. I have my contacts, Dr. Mendez said with a smile. Jason isn't as perfect as he pretends. John stared at the photos silently. I'm sorry, Caitlin whispered to him. I dragged you into this. Stop, John said gently, taking her hand. It's not your fault. Dr. Mendez cleared his throat. I need both of you at the hearing, but you must be careful. Why? Caitlin asked. Because this is exactly what Jason wants, the lawyer explained, pointing to her hand in John's. He wants to prove there's... Caitlin pulled her hand away as if it burned. And is there? Dr. Mendez asked. She glanced at John. He kept his eyes on the photos. No, she said quickly. There's nothing. The room grew quiet. Good, Dr. Mendez said, closing the papers. See you at 3. Outside, John stopped Caitlin before she could get in her car. Is it true? He asked softly. What? She whispered. That there's nothing between us. She looked down at her shoes. I need to get Thomas. Caitlin, I can't. She cut him off, tears burning her eyes. Not now. John nodded slowly. See you at the hearing. Caitlin drove back to the restaurant with blurry eyes. Inside, Thomas was smiling proudly, his face covered in flour. Look, Mom, he said, holding a crooked hamburger. I made it. Caitlin hugged him tight, tears finally falling. Why are you crying? Thomas asked, confused. Because I love you so much, she whispered, kissing his floury cheek. The clock on the wall showed 11. Only 4 hours until the hearing that could change everything. The courthouse was full. Caitlin sat on a hard bench, fixing her suit again and again. Roberto stayed with Thomas at the restaurant. Dr. Mendez arrived at 2:45, carrying his leather briefcase. Jason is already inside, with 3 lawyers. 3? Caitlin's stomach turned. It doesn't matter how many, Dr. Mendez said with a small smile. What matters is who's right. John came in 2 minutes later, now wearing a dark blue suit. His eyes met Caitlin's for a moment, then he looked away. Ready? Dr. Mendez asked. The hearing room felt too small. Jason and his 3 lawyers filled one table. Jason smirked when Caitlin walked in. All rise, the officer called. The judge, a gray-haired woman with a stern face, entered. Case 2847B, she began. Injunction for parental alienation. Jason's lawyer stood. Your Honor, the defendant is trying to replace the father figure. Here are the photos. The pictures flashed on the screen, Caitlin and John at the farm, in the rain, his hand touching her face. The defendant is in a romantic relationship, the lawyer said, without caring about the child's feelings. Objection, Dr. Mendez said. Speculation. Sustained, the judge replied. Stick to facts. The facts are clear, Jason's lawyer said. This man, he pointed at John, is trying to take the father's place. I'd like to present my own evidence, Dr. Mendez said. He showed photos of Jason following Caitlin, taking secret pictures. The plaintiff hired private investigators without permission. This is stalking. Jason shifted uncomfortably. And there's more, Dr. Mendez added. He showed the financial papers. Jason has large deposits from unclear sources. Jason jumped up. This is irrelevant. Sit down, Mr. Santos, the judge ordered. It shows he is using shady money to fund this case, Dr. Mendez explained. The room went quiet. I call John Martinez to testify, Dr. Mendez said. John walked to the front. Caitlin held her breath. What is your relationship with Mrs. Santos? The lawyer asked. I'm her business partner. Nothing more, John answered. The photos say otherwise, Jason's lawyer said sharply. They show a friend helping another, John said firmly. Caitlin is a loving mother. She works hard. She deserves peace. And the touches? The looks? The lawyer pushed. Objection, Dr. Mendez shouted. Sustained, the judge said. John looked at Jason. I know men like you, men who use money and power to control others. Why you? Jason started. Silence, the judge banged her gavel. Thomas needs his mother, John said steadily, and she needs him. That's all. The judge took notes. Then she spoke. The injunction is denied. Caitlin let out the breath she had been holding. And, the judge added, there will be an investigation into Mr. Santos's activities. Jason jumped up. This is absurd. Leave now, the judge ordered. Jason stormed out, his lawyers chasing him. We won this battle, Dr. Mendez said with a smile. Caitlin nodded, tears in her eyes. John was already gone. She found him outside, leaning against his truck. Why did you leave? She asked. Needed air, he said, still looking at the sky. And you needed your moment. You don't have to. I did what I had to do, John said simply. Her phone rang. It was Roberto. Thomas is asking for you, but there's something else. Jason came by. Caitlin froze. What did he want? He said he's going to the police station to file a report. No, she gasped. Get in, John said, already opening the truck door. At the police station, Thomas sat in a chair crying. Jason was yelling at an officer. My son, Jason shouted when Caitlin ran to Thomas. Don't touch him, Jason barked. Calm down, the officer said. She's destroying my family with his help. Jason pointed at John. Dad, stop yelling, Thomas cried. The room went silent. Jason looked at his son, truly seeing him for the first time. I want to go with Mommy, Thomas whispered, hugging Caitlin. The order is clear, the officer said. It's the Mother's Week. Jason looked tired, broken. Fine, he muttered, grabbing his keys. Fine. Your son deserves better, John said quietly. Jason didn't reply. He just walked out. On the drive home, Thomas slept in the back seat. I'm sorry, John said. For what? Caitlin asked softly. For what I said in court, about there being nothing between us. About Jason, he sighed. I shouldn't have made it personal. But is there? She asked. John stopped at a red light. You know there is. Caitlin looked at Thomas in the mirror. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too, John admitted. That's why I left the room, because every time I look at you, it's harder to pretend it's just friendship. The rest of the drive was silent. When they reached home, Thomas stirred. John, he mumbled sleepily, will you make hamburgers for us? Another day, champ, John said with a smile. Promise. Thomas ran up the stairs first. Caitlin paused at the door. Thank you, she said to John, for everything. Always. She leaned forward and kissed his cheek. Good night. A week later, Caitlin drove Thomas to Hope Farm. Careful, she shouted as Thomas jumped out before the car stopped. John was waiting near the barn with a clipboard. He smiled when he saw them. Hey, champ, ready to work? Yes, Thomas grinned. Where are the horses? After work, John teased. First, we have a shop to build. Inside the barn, drawings covered a table. Look, Mom, Thomas pointed proudly, like your pies. It was a simple logo, Caitlin's Pies, written in pretty letters with a picture of an apple pie. You did this? Caitlin asked. Thomas helped, John said. The apple was his idea. It's the best pie in the world, Thomas declared. A truck arrived outside. Builders started unloading materials. Will it take long? Thomas asked. 2 weeks, if we work hard, John said. Can I help? Thomas asked eagerly. Of course, John said, giving him a tiny hard hat. You're our junior supervisor. Thomas beamed and ran outside. He seems happy, John said softly. He is, Caitlin replied, touching the logo drawing. Happier than I've seen him in a long time. And you? John asked, still holding the clipboard but staring at her. She met his eyes. I am too. Mom, come see, Thomas shouted from outside. Builders were tearing down a wall. Dust filled the air. Watch your eyes, Caitlin told him. I know, Thomas said proudly, wearing safety goggles a worker had given him. John stood close behind her. Always worried, he teased gently. Always, she sighed, but less than before. Has Jason come back? He asked. No, she said. I think he finally understood. A soft breeze carried the smell of coffee from the main house. The workers had turned on a small radio. Soft country music was playing. That night, John looked serious. He put down his clipboard. Caitlin, I need to say it, he said. I don't want to pretend anymore. Caitlin looked at Thomas. He was sitting on a pile of sand, drawing lines with a stick. I don't either, she admitted softly. John took her hand. This time, Caitlin didn't pull away. Mom, Thomas shouted. Can I ride the horse now? She laughed. After lunch. Promise. Promise, Thomas asked again. John gently squeezed Caitlin's hand. How about we have a picnic? There's good shade near the stable. Thomas jumped with joy. Can it be hamburgers? Not today. Caitlin smiled. I brought apple pie. Her son's eyes lit up. Grandma's? The same one? Yes, she nodded. John let go of her hand slowly. The touch left a tingling feeling on her skin. I'll get a blanket, he said. Caitlin watched him walk away. Thomas was still playing in the sand. The builders kept working while country music played softly. For the first time in a long time, Caitlin felt at home. 2 months later, Caitlin woke up before sunrise. The smell of dough was already in the air. It was coming from the small kitchen of their apartment. Thomas? She called, tying on her apron. I'm here, he answered from the counter. He was sitting on a tall stool, peeling apples carefully with a plastic knife. Watch your fingers, she warned. I know, Mom, he said proudly. He showed her the neatly peeled apples, just like Grandma taught. It was the big day, the shop's opening. Caitlin started preparing the dough, her fingers moving from memory. What time is John coming? Thomas asked. At 7, she said, checking the clock. It's 5:30 now. We need 10 pies ready by then. Can I add the cinnamon? Thomas asked. You can, Caitlin smiled. They worked in comfortable silence. The sun rose slowly, painting the kitchen in golden light. At 7 sharp, the doorbell rang. Thomas ran to open it. Brought reinforcements, John said from the door, carrying boxes. Roberto followed behind with more boxes. The pies? Caitlin asked. All here, Roberto smiled. I spent the night making them. You didn't have to, Caitlin said. Of course I did, he answered, ruffling Thomas's hair. It's a special day. John set the boxes in the kitchen, then stopped by Caitlin. He looked nervous. Very, he admitted. He kissed her forehead lightly. Thomas made a silly, disgusted face, but was smiling. They arrived at the farm at 8. The barn was unrecognizable. Light wood counters, rustic tables, a logo painted on the main wall. Wow, Thomas whispered. All ready, John said. Just need the pies. They worked quietly. Roberto set up the kitchen. Thomas put flowers on the tables. At 9, the first car pulled into the driveway. All ready? Caitlin's heart raced. Roberto's marketing, John smiled. He spread the word through the whole restaurant. More cars arrived. Soon a small line formed outside. Breathe, John whispered, squeezing Caitlin's hand. You can do this. Thomas opened the door wide. Welcome to my mom's shop. People entered with smiles. The smell of fresh apple pie filled the air. This recipe, an elderly lady said after the first bite. It reminds me of my childhood. It was my grandmother's, Caitlin explained, serving coffee. She would be proud. The lady smiled. By noon, half the pies were gone. Thomas ran between tables, filling coffee cups. Going well? John asked, hugging Caitlin from behind. Couldn't be better, she said. A familiar car pulled up. Jason stepped out, adjusting his tie. Caitlin froze. John gently squeezed her shoulders. Want me to ask him to leave? He whispered. No, Caitlin said, taking a deep breath. Let him in. Jason stopped at the door, looking uncomfortable. Dad, come see the kitchen, Thomas shouted, running to him. Jason followed his son, still looking uneasy. He stopped at the counter where Caitlin stood. One slice of apple pie, please, he said quietly. She served him in silence. Jason took a bite. Just like you used to make, he whispered. Grandma taught me, Thomas said proudly. You, Jason hesitated, then nodded. You did a good job here, Kate. Thank you, she replied softly. He paid, left a big tip, hugged Thomas, and walked out. You okay? John asked gently. I am. Caitlin smiled. Really, I am. The afternoon passed quickly. As the sun began to set, Roberto turned on the outside lights. Last batch coming out, he called from the kitchen. Thomas had fallen asleep on a table, surrounded by drawings of pies he wanted to make in the future. I think we tired out our supervisor, John joked, picking him up. It was quite a day, Caitlin said, cleaning the counter. The first of many, John smiled. She stopped, looking around at the empty tables, the soft lights and the smell of pie still in the air. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? John asked. For believing in me, for not giving up. John placed the sleeping boy on a couch in the corner. Then he came back and took Caitlin's hands. I'll never give up, he whispered. Outside, the last customers were leaving. The sky was painted orange and pink. "You know what Grandma always said?" Caitlin asked, resting her head on his chest. "What?" "That sometimes we need to lose everything to find what really matters." John kissed the top of her head. Thomas slept peacefully on the couch. The smell of apple and cinnamon still filled the air. "She was right," John said softly. Caitlin closed her eyes, smiling. Finally, after so long, she felt at peace. She was home. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed it, you'll love the next one. It's even more exciting and full of surprises. Share your story in the comments below. Maybe your story will be the next one I share.